that's really what I want folks to get from this episode, is, let's quit enduring the pain. Let's quit fearing the unknown. Let's give up control to get control.
From Sarah Systems and Billy Go, this is No BS with Billy Stevens and Landon Brewer, the unfiltered, straight-shooting podcast that dives deep into the heart of home service trades to uncover the truth about running your business. You're entering the No BS zone with Billy and Landon.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the No BS podcast with Billy and Landon. We're so excited to have you watch us or listen to us today, whichever way you prefer. And today we're going to talk about why are we stuck wherever we are in our businesses. I mean, there's many reasons why we get stuck, and we're going to focus on a couple of those and talk through them with you. So I want to introduce my co-host today and see if he has any words of wisdom, or maybe it's just some BS coming out of his mouth. Let's see what he's got to say. Hey, Landon.
Well, you're in for a rude awakening, Billy. This week I got wisdom coming out your ears. We're in for some good stuff.
All right.
Good stuff this week.
That's what I like to hear. Wisdom, experience, failure, learning from failure, all these things that you and I have gone throughout our careers. And we get on here and we talk about it. Did you ever think you'd be on a podcast talking about all the times you just totally messed up and what worked when you figured it out? And I mean, it's hard to... For some people, it's hard to talk about your failures, but you know what? As an entrepreneur like we are, failure is where we get successful. That's where we learn from. And there's a quote I put out on my Happy Saturday post that I do on Facebook every week, and it was the magic you're trying to find is in the work you're avoiding.
Yeah,
and that just is so profound to me. It really, that just means a lot to me. In fact, that just gives me chills when I think about that quote, because that is really the difference between a successful entrepreneur and someone that's wanting to be an entrepreneur that maybe has a good business and they have good business sense, but they just can't get out of their own way and they get stuck. And it's really because maybe we're just focusing on the wrong stuff, because we get told the same thing from the gurus and the best practices groups. We're not being told any of the surface stuff. At the why. We're not getting the why. We're getting the what and the how, but we're not getting the why. And without the why, we can't really fix something because we don't have the whole story. And that's what
you've had different phases of your career. I've had different phases of my career, but one thing that's always been, a constant is like I've been told, hey, you always got to surround yourself by people who have failed more than you. And so this is why I'm doing the podcast with you, Billy. You're a much bigger failure than me. Just throw that out there.
And I'm proud of it.
Some people say surround yourself by people that are smarter than you and more capable and wealthier. I just surround myself by bigger failures.
That's right. It makes him feel good about himself, and we all know that.
That's right,
because everybody I ever met was a failure around him. So anyway, you know what? I'll take that moniker. I'll be the failure in this group today, for sure, because I'd learned from him. And really and truly, if I was just successful the whole time, I probably wouldn't be that successful. It's the failures that make us successful and that really move us to the next level and get us unstuck, is like what we're going to talk about today. Is, we may fail at something, or we may not be capable of doing certain things, and we have to realize when to get out of our own way. And that's the biggest part of being stuck, is not realizing, hey, I'm really not that good at this, and I really don't even like doing it. But I haven't found anybody who can do it as good as me or work harder than me. I own the business. No one works hard as I do. And sorry, but we have to stop thinking like this. If you're going to scale your business, if you're going to make it a business that maybe one day you want to pass it to your kids, sell it, whatever you want to do, the only way to do that is if you're out of the way. And I like to tell people that I'm looking to get fired from every job I do inside the business. I want to get fired from it as quickly as possible. because that means I'm moving on to the next thing. And so I don't mind being fired. I actually got fired from my very first job that I ever had. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me looking at it in hindsight, because when it happened, I was devastated because I got fired for a reason that had nothing to do with me at all. I worked at a gas station, and I came in and they said that, they were off by 30 gallons or something on the gas. And they said, you took it. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I did not take the gas. I can promise you that. And I'll try to help you figure out where the gas went if I have to. And they didn't want any part of it. They didn't even want to talk about it. I was fired, period, done, over. And very devastating. I'm 15, 16 years old. First real job outside of not working, with my family or something, or doing, mowing lawns or something. It was like my first official job, with a paycheck.
Wow.
And so I was devastated, but I knew right then and there, and I already knew I wanted to be my own boss, my own everything. And so I put in all the effort possible. I cleaned this gas station up. It was a mess. I organized it. I did all this stuff. And then I just got fired for something I didn't do. And come to find out, they had a daughter a couple years older than I was, and she was giving gas to her friends. And I got fired for that. So they didn't know.
Usually how it is.
Is how it goes.
I mean, you said something earlier today on the on our weekly live video thing that we do, and you talked about the same thing, kind of getting fired from every job that you've ever had. You want to replace yourself in every job you ever had. You got to find somebody better, somebody more qualified, etc. And I think this is a big sticking point for people that in our industry that came out of the trades, out of the trucks themselves, right? So, we were talking to an electrician today, and I've known this person for 20 some odd years and seen some great early on successes. And I think, it's kind of just a natural thing to do that, you're the expert, you're doing it your way, the way that you want to have things done. And no one, especially if you're a perfectionist, which many of us, are, if you're a perfectionist, no one's going to do this as good as you. And so you just can't let go of that rein. You have to have this high standard, which high standards are also good. But, no one will ever reach the level of perfection that maybe you as the, craftsman, tradesperson aspires to. So, how do you build a team around that? If you're the field guy, you're the perfectionist, like how did you get out of the truck?
Well, first and foremost, I immediately found my skill set. And my skill set to me was I felt like I was a good leader. I felt like I could dissect problems and figure out the 3 to 4 or 5 things that would create problems from fixing this problem. I could actually see past just the problem. So that was my ability. That was what I was good at. What I am very bad at is crafting emails. I don't like writing emails, even though I do a post every Saturday. I do all this stuff now. It's not what I'm that good. I'm not very good at it. In my mind, I don't like policy and procedure type work. I'm an entrepreneur. I want to create. And once I realized that I wanted to create, I needed people around me to manage. And so I needed to learn how to manage managers, which is a huge step for any
massive step
for any owner. That's the scariest thing ever. And you probably don't get it right a lot of the time, the first time, maybe even the second time, probably even the third time. You may not get that right person. And there's this book, I believe the author is Peter Thiel, I believe that's his name, that wrote the Peter Principle. And that book talks about this. And we'll get Tim to verify the author and all that. But
Peter Thiel's like the Facebook guy. I think that was Drucker.
Maybe it is Drucker or whoever. But it's called the Peter Principle. I do know that part. And so again, see, that's not my skill set, remembering names. So you know what I'm saying, Joe Bob? I mean Landon.
Lawrence J. Peter.
Lawrence J. Peer. I
got
wasn't
the
even.
Google out on it.
All right, I wasn't even
Google
close
on
to it, but I know about this. I read this book, and I know what its function is. And the Peter principle is that we find someone that's really good in their job, doing whatever the task is that they're really good at, and because they're really good and exceptional at that job, we automatically promote them to a job that they suck at. And that's what we do in this industry, a whole bunch. Because if you find someone that's a hard worker that can do a bunch of stuff, you promote them, and then they're destined for failure because their most value to your company was where they were, what their skill set actually is. And that is the principle behind the book. And
well, the logic isn't terrible, right? If you're the best at something, ideally you should be able to share that knowledge and train other people to help be similarly as good, right?
right.
I think that where it fails, and this may be part of the book, I don't know, where it fails is that management is a skill set, training is a skill set. It's no different than the craft skill set that you've learned or you've picked up in whatever trade you're in. It's a skill set, managing people, holding people accountable, measuring performance, when to bring people in, when to, give corrective action, how to give corrective action, praising publicly, reprimanding privately. Like there's an art and a skill set that is learned, that is required, that isn't just, hey, my best tech knows how to sell the most stuff. You're the service manager, you're the ops manager, go help these guys learn how to sell some stuff. And, oh, by the way, they're not clocking in on the right, they're not doing this, they're not doing, there's a very specific skill set that almost no one possesses inherently, that has to be learned. And if you don't, now you can take your best salesperson, best service technician, best whoever, and you can run them through the requisite managerial classes and make sure they're certified and they can perform that task, but you still don't know if they're going to be good at it. So why would you take the chance? It almost never works. Now, I'd rather go out and find somebody that has the management skill set that isn't too up in the clouds and can relate to blue collar people. Teach them how to speak to them. Teach them, here are the key things that they need to learn. Here, put it into your management protocol and help guide us in the right direction. So I'd rather find somebody outside of the space that has the skill set and you can teach them some of the trade specifics and then let them go. But again, that's hard to find. You have to know what you're looking for.
Yeah, it takes another skill set just in the interviewing, right? That's a whole nother skill set. How do I interview? How do I get the right person? I mean, again, that's not easy either. And that's a whole nother situation that you're bringing up. But I will be honest with you, I tend to hire outside of the industry and bring in just about every position, even technicians. I bring the best that I can find, and I'm looking for certain qualities. And if I'm looking for a technician that has no experience in the field, I'm looking for a guy with some work ethic, he's honest, he has some integrity. And if I have those three, I can teach the rest because I've created that skill set, to teach the rest of it. I can teach them how to run a tune-up. I can teach them how to be a helper on an install team. I can teach them how to be the lead installer, and I can teach them how to be the technician if that's where they go. And same within the office. It's you bring in the best possible talent possible. But what we tend to do is we just pile a whole bunch of work on people, and then we just hire more people, and then just pile more work on them. And then now we have a very dysfunctional business that is keeping us from growing when we ought to be streamlined.
As we grow, we collect more individuals because we got more stuff to do and more random tasks, and then it just gets overweighted and just completely chaotic and not making any money, right? So how do you know? Like, let's talk about org chart for a second. So getting stuck, going from that next level from you're in your truck, you got a couple helpers, you got your people, now you've grown your business to a million, maybe 1.5 million, 2 million. What's the next step? How do you get to that next level? And when do you keep adding
Great question.
Different
Yeah.
prongs?
So yeah, let's say you're up to 1 million, you're in between 1 million, 1.2 million, and you're stuck, or maybe you're stuck just right at that $1 million mark, which is a very big place to be stuck. It seems like 1 million and 3 million are the two sticking points in this industry. Once you get past 3 million, you start figuring things out. But that 1 to 3 is where we get stuck for some reason. And so for the person that's stuck at the $1 million mark, the number one thing you got to do is you got to get out of a truck. That by far will change more than anything. The owner has to get out of the truck if you're ever going to get to past that 1 million, because you just can't be in the truck and run a business past $1 million. You can be in that truck and get it there, close to there, but then you have to get out, and you have to get out completely. And now you start supporting and teaching technicians. You're not necessarily needing to go hire a manager. You just need to learn how to start teaching other people to do what got you to the million. That's the first step, right? So you're moving the way you build, the way you operate your business. You got fired from the truck, right? We get fired from our job. And now your new job is passing that information and that knowledge to someone else that you learned while you were in the truck. And so now you have 2, maybe 3, maybe even 4 of those folks that you're passing that information to. You still don't need a manager just yet to manage technicians in the field, because you're able to focus more on that management at that time. Maybe you bring someone in to take the task off of you that keep you from managing those 4 guys or those 5 guys. You bring someone to take over, the menial task, like, paying bills, so you don't take it home and do it at the kitchen table every night. Like the lady was talking about today, is you always, if you're bringing your business home and the only topic that you and your wife discuss is the business, something's wrong. Something's wrong, because we didn't get into business for it to consume us. We got into business because we wanted to be independent. We wanted to build something. And so, all right, so now you got 4 or 5 guys. The next person that you need to hire, that you need to manage, would be someone sitting alongside of you to take away some of these tasks so that you can go to technician number 5, number 6. I don't recommend past 7. I think you're stretching yourself to the max when you get to 7 techs and you're managing 7 techs. And that's for anyone, in my opinion. Some may differ, but that's what the sweet spot where I like to be. And not overextend our guys, our managers. So now you've stepped out of the truck. You've done a great job of implementing some things, millions of things, and you have some assistants to help implement and move those things through each day. And you're focused on your guys. Your business is growing, steadily growing. And then you're looking at, all right, so how do I, now that I got past that million, maybe I'm sitting at $1.6 million, $1.7 million, maybe close to 2 million. This is when you go to take the next step, the next leap of faith, and get to that 3 million. Now, what happens is we don't. Maybe we do hire a manager, but we don't let the manager manage. And this is what I see the most. They did the right thing. They got another person in there. But now they're doing the same thing that they were doing earlier in their career. They're trying to control the manager that they hired to manage instead of allowing them to manage. So one of 2 things went wrong. You hired the wrong person, or you are still micromanaging. And so you have to learn your lesson all over again. And that lesson is let go. Let go. Get the data you need. You can get that information that you need to make sure that this is working. You can observe, but don't micromanage. Let this person do his thing or her thing. And that it will get you to that 3 million. And what do you do to get past that? So then we get stuck again, right? Because we really just won't let the reins loose on this new manager that's managing this business you created, that you're so passionate about, that you can't let go of. To get it past 3 million, you've got to back off. So now you're starting to back off. You're starting to figure this out. And the people that back off, typically, I don't see a business go from 3 to 4 million. When they back out, I see it go from 3 to 5. it's typically you leapfrog for at this point. Is what I see a lot of. And what happened? Now, how did we leapfrog it? So we let go. We allowed this manager to manage. Maybe our new task now is, how do I build processes in the office with the person that I have in the office? Do I bring in another person in the office? Maybe I need a call taker. Maybe I need a better dispatcher, or maybe a full-time dispatcher. And so now you're building the infrastructure to support these 7-ish guys, if you will, at that 3 million mark, plus the install teams. And so now you're getting the support system in place. And then once that support system's in place, then you can rapidly start accelerating. Now you're in let's just say that it took you 4 years to get there. It's a 7-year rule. And from what I have experienced in my career, you're not fully vetted and branded in the industry or in your area where you do business till 7 years. You're building that brand and that business for those first 7 years. And in year 7, you're firmly established. You should be selling memberships. You should be doing the sticky thing. You should have been doing it at 1 million so you could get get there faster to 5 or 6 or 7 million. But by the time you get to year 7, you're an established entity. People have heard of your name. You have enough people that have said good things about you. And so it accelerates itself. And that comes with time. Even with technology, you can grow faster and get to a higher number faster, but year 7 still has a multiplier effect. So you may be able to get to 10, 15 million in 7 years or 20 million in 7 years. But
I was going to say, you're being, you're like harkening back to, 10, 15 years ago in my book. And this is why everybody's perspective is different. And I am by no means an advocate of like just growth for the sake of growth, the way that you see some of these people. Well, I went to 20 million in 3 years. It's, in almost 95% of the cases that you'll hear that stuff, there are no control mechanisms put in place. There's no infrastructure. It's built on a house of cards and it's going to collapse.
And they do.
So I'm not advocating that, but I am advocating a different perspective. Like when, I luckily came from a different perspective, and we kind of hit on this earlier too. The thing that's enabled me to help elevate and grow businesses is that I didn't come from the space. I don't know anything about the space when I first got into it many years ago. And I just had to research. I had to go find the big companies. I had to who's the good sales guy? And they travel in packs, and who are the good techs, and what do you do? And so as you I put it together from a model standpoint, I just kind of model it out. And I knew that I didn't fit in that model anywhere. And the best place for me in the org chart, and quite frankly, the best place for any owner operator, in my opinion, to have the most valuable business they can have is not have a spot in the org chart. The best place is investor, off to the side.
Yep.
And that's, they call passive, and be a passive investor in your business. That being said, I never had that problem because I never had the talent that was required to be out in the field, to go out and sell stuff, to go, I didn't have the patience to do the debits and credits. And after a while, I didn't have the patience to manage people. And so I was like, okay, as soon as I'm into a business day one, how do I find the people? How do I find the people? I need better people. I need this, I need that. And so it was constantly a race for me to elevate myself out of the business, because I knew that if I wasn't in it, it would be better. As long as I had the protocols in place to manage it. But most people don't think that way.
No, they don't.
So I said, I was joking around, half joking that, we were able to have the same path of success due to our lack of talent.
That's right. That's right.
But most people, you have a bigger barrier to success when you've got inherent talent in the field, for example, or in sales. If you're the sales driver, all the sales have to go through you. You're the best closer. I see this a lot, that business can get to a $7-8 million run rate, maybe making some money, maybe not, but the Peter principle is you're the sales, funnel, and you're the choke in the funnel. Right. So I never had that problem. I always found better people. All I've ever spent my entire career in anything I've ever done is looking for better people than me. And finding better people than me across the board and giving them massive opportunities where they could sit in basically an ownership role and have that same kind of level of investment that I have, and say, all right, you're the man. You're way better than me. Here's the incentive. Go get it.
Yep.
And that's how I've had success. And that's like, maybe again, my perception and my, the way I think about the business, because I started up a branch at ARS years ago from scratch, and we used some other resources from a different branch to get it going. But the first year budget was 6.5 million. This was, I don't know, more than 10 years, probably 15 years ago. And we hit a little over 6.5 million from zero year one, right? But it was a small operation, no call center. It was like a little, like, this is way before it was built out. And we were one of the most profitable companies in ARS at that time. I think out of, I don't know, probably 40 of them, we were top three, even though we weren't, that big, because we were 35% EBITDA. We had no overhead whatsoever. I just went out and I found some, wacky salespeople that you see running around California. I'm like, okay, we got a lead funnel. Now I got to go find these crazy salespeople that will, sell $4 million a year. And then we got to get that. And once I got that, then I got to go find some operational people that will keep them in check. And I'll be able to, for a while, like, navigate and manage both of those sides of the business until I can get a professional manager in here that's going to be better than me. And so my experience is like, you can grow things to a certain level as long as you've got a plan. But if you just grow wild and free, it's a house of cards.
House of cards.
But there's no reason that you can't get to with 5 techs this day and age, plumbing, HVAC, whatever it is, 5 techs, 1 salesperson, and 2 people in the office. So maybe 7, 8 people. That's a $8 million business in my book.
It can be, absolutely, but we got to get unstuck.
Yeah, the stuck is a lot of it's in your head, right?
I have a saying.
It's a mindset. It's a comfort level, right?
Yeah, it's comfort level. It's the fear of, I call it the fear of zeros, is what I call it. We're comfortable that we make X number of dollars where we are. We heard that today, right? We're making X number of dollars. There's a lot of frustration though, because we know we're leaving stuff on the table. But you've got one person that's really wanting to grow this thing, and you got the other person that's comfortable but yet uncomfortable because they're still working long hours. They're making great money. They can go take trips. They have a house. They get a new car every 3, 4 years, 2 years, whatever it is. But they're still working like it was a startup, like they just started, back when they were younger, and now they're not younger anymore. And they just want to know how to get unstuck. You and I refuse to be stuck. And so our listeners are trying to figure out, all right, this is how we do it, and we run through it, but there's more to it, and there's more to it underneath all the stuff that we're saying as well, which is why we're doing this show. Is like, I want to explain it to them in a way that doesn't scare them, because when you and I talk about it, it's easy for us. We've done it. We've done it a few times. We've done it more than a few times, and we move fast, and not everybody does. I say that 2%ers move really quick. The rest of us are trying to hold on to all the power, I guess. And we're more about creating things and stuff.
Well, it's a comfort zone.
It's a comfort zone.
Right? So like at one point, everybody that's in business for themselves had the entrepreneurial seeds that everybody talks about, right? They had I just can't take it anymore. I can do it better. And whatever was that catalyst to get them to go into business for themselves, right? They took a risk. They hung up their own shingle. They started with, $5,000 and just went after it in their own truck, right? There's a risk. Then they're just like, okay, I don't like this. It's not as comfortable as I want. It's what's the fun in being in business for yourself? You got to work 90 hours and get paid essentially minimum wage. Like, I need to get people to do some of this work. My back's not going to take it, right? So then I'm going to take a little bit of a risk and take some of that money I'm hoarding for myself and say, okay, I'm going to bring somebody on. right? And so at a certain point, everybody has their own risk tolerance, and they stop taking the risk, right?
Mhm.
Like, even, or if you've elevated your business to a certain point where you got people running it, even they stop taking risks, right?
Mhm.
Because there's safety in it.
Yeah.
They're used to making $2 million a year, and that now they're taking, $200,000 cash flow out of the business and running their personal expenses through it, and that life is way better than the life that they've ever known,
Mhm.
and that's what they feel comfortable with. But they're not building, they're not growing, they're not doing anything more personally, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to build a monetizable business that you can sell someday, and you don't have to be the business, and you're going to get out of the business and you can retire and you can do all of these things, or just like grow it and build it, sell it and do it again.
Yeah.
Like, you have to continue to take risks forever. That's
Yep.
what nobody will tell you. You start taking a risk day one as an entrepreneur, those risks can never end if you want to grow.
That's right.
Otherwise, you'll be stuck.
That's exactly right. You can't be comfortable. That's the Warren Buffett says that enough. He goes, you can never get comfortable. If you get comfortable in your business, you're going to fail. You have to keep challenging yourself. You got to keep moving and prospering and changing and trying new things. I hear it a lot, all this software, it was so difficult. It's so hard. I hate everything about it, but I can't move because we spent so much time trying to figure it out and we still can't get what we need out of it. And that's not being uncomfortable. That's being complacent. It's keep moving, keep evolving, keep questioning, keep moving forward. That is the whole idea behind what we're doing here. And when we're talking to folks, is we got to get out of the comfort zone. And then sometimes it's a fear of zeros. Back to my zero thing. You're comfortable at 100,000 a year, 200,000 a year, whatever it is. You're very uncomfortable if you add just a zero to that, because maybe you don't feel like you deserve that, or it's impossible, or whatever your reasoning is. If we could get over the fear of zeros, which I like lots of zeros, because zeros don't scare me, I pursue them. And what I mean by zeros, for everybody out there talking, there's zeros and $1 million. You have zeros, right? There's 6 of them, and there's the number in front of it. If you're at 100,000, there's only 5 of them. How do you get to that 6th zero? Maybe how do you get to that 7th zero? And you and I never stop pursuing the zeros, right? Digits, I guess is another way to put it, another digit. And so the reason why we decided to do this podcast is so that we can take you through the steps from the very beginning. We started off this show on $1 million company. We didn't start this show off on a $100 million company, because that would be terrible. What we're talking about, $100 million company, has absolutely nothing to do with a 1 million, 3 million, 5 million, 10 million business, right? And so we never could have got to the 100 million if we didn't do the million first, 2 million, and so on. And that's,
Well, the 100 million. I mean, if I was going to say, that's what there is a correlation, because you got to be a million, then you got to be 5 million, you got to be 10 million, then you got to be 15, you got to be 20, and there's different roadblocks that you're going to run into every step of the way, right?
yep.
I hear a lot of people stuck at going over a million, then going over 3 million, going over 7 million, getting to 10 million. And how do you get? And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, most people don't have a roadmap, so you got to invent the roadmap to some degree, especially if you're continuing it after 10, 20, 50, 100, whatever million. You have to invent the roadmap. uh, Number two, people are, like you said, complacent. They're happy with where they're at. They got their $5 million business. Now it's a better life than I ever thought I'd have. And you just, I don't want to take any more risk, and there's nothing wrong with it. But
Yep.
if you want to grow, if you want to continue to accelerate, you want to build the most, business that you can monetize the highest and most value, like, you got to keep growing and doing those things, right? If you want to have a cleaner business, you got to find better people. You got to continue to elevate in all aspects of the business. And once you start getting into that system, it becomes just math. But you got, people stop taking risks. They get complacent. They don't have a roadmap. They don't know that, at certain levels, it might require, adding different positions within the business. You're getting a lot of synergies, but now, when's the right time to bring on, uh, you know, I remember we were having first conversations like, we really need somebody, and we've gotten this many branches and we're doing this. We need, a big focus on FP&A, financial planning and analysis person. And, I think we'll get a big lift in the business if you can just identify the specific area. Like, how many people are talking about that, right? You're talking about that when you're 100 million,
Yeah.
like that,
Not
those are the
until then.
conversations. And because the goal is to get to, 200 million and 300 and
Right.
500 and a billion. And, if you can just, if you just continue down the journey to see what you can push yourself to, what you did 10 years ago, if that is, we talked about the Al Bundy thing and all that, like that should not define who you are today.
Mm-mm.
Like that should just been the warm up and prepping you for who you are today and what you're about to do.
Absolutely.
And so if you're stuck at 1 million, if you're stuck at 2 million, 3 million, 5 million, if you've been stuck for 6 months, 6 years, it doesn't matter. Get unstuck, take the entrepreneurial risk, stop being conservative, get the roadmap, and just go to work tomorrow and build something new.
Right.
Like that's what you have to do. Like as human beings, we're called to do that in every aspect of life. I believe that.
I agree as well. And of course, we're in the best industry you can be in because we're in a cash business. And so you have new money every day. And so you can make change and not wreck your business because you're not doing anything to affect the cash flow. You're doing things not immediately. You want to affect the cash flow. You want it to go up. But you can make change. And I think it's making educated change. And it's just a perception. Like a lot of the comments in our meeting earlier today, I think we had like 40 something contractors on there. And then we asked them, where are you stuck? And the amount of responses was, off the charts, and, all these different places they were stuck. And it was very eye opening. And typically in revenue is where they're stuck. And so what does that mean? So if we're stuck at revenue, is it marketing? Is it tech training? Is it back office? Is it ownership? What is it? And the answer is all of those and many more. You have to pick your battles. The 3% rule, as you say, and win 3%, 3 to 5%. Win there and then move on and win there at 3 to 5% somewhere else. So many people spend so much of their time in thinking about inventory that they pay more money chasing inventory than they actually lose not chasing it. And what if we just took that effort and moved it to the revenue side and made each guy 5% better or 3% better? What the compounding effect of that is way bigger. And so I think it comes down from what I saw today from the different questions is I don't really know which one is the most important to start with. Where do I start is really what I was getting from all of that today. Is that kind of how you felt?
Yeah, I think so. I think, well, one, the realization that everybody gets stuck. Right. It's not just, we're talking about it like it's never happened to us. It happens every day. Right. Like every business gets stuck. It gets stuck on something. It gets caught in traction. It's like we got to break it loose in traction. Doesn't matter what size you are, 2 billion, 2 million, doesn't matter. Everybody's stuck occasionally. And the faster you can get it unstuck, the better. But you got to know what to do. And you got to have like the, wherewithal to take the action to get it unstuck. Mm-hmm. And here's what I think is a common thing. Most people don't inherently just take the action to get it unstuck because they don't say, oh, well, that looks like it's stuck. Let's go unstuck that. Yeah. Well, what happens is pain happens. Like you get a 48% payroll week and you're like, oh crap, it's draining my savings, or mm-hmm. You didn't watch your financing costs, and then you got rogue salespeople putting out 5-year same as cash, no interest, no payments, on $20,000 systems, and all your profit goes to the finance company that month. Like, or you got like just pain happens. And until you're experiencing that pain, usually nobody steps up and says, all right, time to fix it. Right.
Yeah.
But here's the pain of waiting. Like if you live in this world of comfort for too long, and you're like, okay, well, now it's time to retire in the next 5 years. Now I better get serious. It's like, well, it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get up tomorrow and change things.
Yep.
Take drastic action in your business. Otherwise, you better be happy with whatever you got. And I see that happen so many people. Like when life becomes easier than expected, there's no pain. That's the impetus to change.
That's right. And we as a people in this industry like pain for some reason. We can take a whole bunch. We take a whole bunch of pain before we'll do anything. Just to, the pain's so terrible that we endure it for a long period of time when it could take 5% more pain for a very short period of time and get rid of the pain. And It's getting them to get that, let's just take 5% more pain here for a very, very short time. And then we can get rid of all that pain for you. And I think that's what we have to get people to start thinking about is, it's going to pay a little bit more painful. You got a cut on your arm and you don't want to add salt to it right now. But, if you did add the salt to it, actually we could get you out of that pain faster or whatever, from a business term. And that's what I try to teach people. And our coaching styles are very important. I don't consider myself a coach. That's not what I want to do, but I do talk to a lot of people. So I'm a talker and I talk to people. And I tell them when I start talking to them that I'm going to tell you the truth and you may not like it and you may not like me anymore, but I'm going to tell you the truth. And when there's something that I can really point out to them and then explain it in a way that makes sense to them, then they like it and then they can do something about it. And that's really what I want folks to get from this episode is, let's quit enduring the pain. Let's quit fearing the unknown. Let's give up control to get control. Anything else you'd like to add to that before we wrap up?
I mean, I think the only other thing giving up control, it's like control of anything is just a pure fantasy. It's an illusion. You don't you think you're in control. You're never really in control. I mean, the only thing you can control is your mindset, your attitude, your response to things, your piece of whatever you're doing. Like there is no control. You don't control any of the employees. You don't control your team members. You don't control the customer. You don't control any of those things. You can just show up and do your best and, adhere to the playbook, and you're gonna influence an outcome. So you just got to do your best to influence an outcome. You don't control anything. So stop trying to control everything.
Great words of wisdom there, my man. I'm going to thank everybody for listening today. And I just want you to know that, if you're stuck, we have a general conversation about being stuck today and some things that we threw out there, and hopefully it helps you. But we're going to really stick to this subject in some following episodes. We're going to get more specific so that we can actually unstuck you in some areas that are specifically holding you up and that we know about. So stay tuned for those. It's very important. We'll basically dive in on a area and tell you exactly how to get unstuck so that you can do that. We're really excited about all the subscribers. Please subscribe to our channel. We get more control on YouTube and be able to move over to Spotify and stuff once we get over 1,000 subscribers. And please help us get there. We're getting closer and closer every week. And I want to thank my co-host, Landon Brewer, for joining me on this conversation today and every week and all the many crazy things we do when we're not on this show together. We've actually have a lot of fun in this industry. So thanks again. And what do you tell them, Landon?
Like and subscribe. Make Billy famous. Like and subscribe.
All right. Talk to y'all later.
No BS with Billy and Landon is produced and delivered to you by Sarah Systems. At Sarah Systems, we've created a better way to run your home service business and unlock unprecedented growth. Our field service software was designed by real home service professionals to help you save steps, charge for previously unbillable time, and win more business. But the true change requires more than software. Our live coaching helps you understand and control the aspects of your business that matter most. It's about time for a new era of service, and we're leading the way. If you're ready to join the hundreds of other contractors who've been able to increase profit margins more than 50% within 6 months, visit Sera.tech today. That's Sera, SERA.tech today.